So I'm actually now looking at some of the branches, probably in the middle section here, coming to the left, and they're going to be kind of spraying kind of to the left, upper left diagonal kind of side of the canvas. So what I'm doing, I'm mixing quite dark, I'm using a bit black, burnt umber. But remember, because they're quite, well, some of them are quite thin, you want to maybe make it a little bit grey and use a bit of blue as well. And the reason that is because it's relating to the background. So I've got a bit of cerulean manganese blue there to mix in as well to that browny colour. So remember, so if you're doing a branch or something which is on top of something like I don't know, like a post, like a lamp post in the distance, and you want to use a lot of those colours that are surrounding it. For example, if it's a backdrop of a nice blue sky, a bit like what I'm doing at the moment, you're going to use a bit of blue, the same blue, so I'm using manganese blue, a bit of ultramarine, just a grey up, and to make it slightly lean in tint to the background. So when you do those thinner areas, it's going to look like it's in the distance more because it's being affected so much by those surrounding colours. Now that doesn't mean a lot. I mean, it's still going to be primarily dark and brown. As you can see my palette, it's still a brown colour. But I've just graded up and I've made it a little bit cooler, so it's going to relate a lot more. And again, as things go into the distance, they become cooler in tone. And the opposite, when things are in the foreground, closer to us, they become warm. As you can see, a lot of these colours down here are quite warm colours. These browns, these greens, they're very warm greens. They've got a lot of yellow in them. These warm blues coming in here, even though blue is a cool colour, it's kind of a warm version of a blue, so that's why. And then as you go into the background, obviously we get more of these cooler tones. Even in the path itself, the path becomes more cooler. In the distance, you can see that grey, that's a very cool grey. As things go into the distance, always remember to cool your palette. So let's have a go doing some of these branches. So what I've done, got two colours, and that's a good combination to do. The branches in the foreground, which are slightly more bolder branches. And again, I'm holding my wrists like this so I can direct it. And yeah, and we've got the other colour for the branches in the distance, so you can see what I'm doing there. So already you can see me slightly different to the foliage. I'm doing more bolder, straighter lines, and that is going to work really nicely. And again, yeah, you can still mix all the branches are slightly different tones, so I've added a slight bit of burnt sienna there. Again, you're going to have to use a bit of concentration, a bit more. So some areas you're going to do with the arm, like I said, that's an expressive line, and others, they're more smaller, detailed branches, you're going to do more holding like a pencil from across. Now it might also help when you're doing detailed parts of a painting, like getting the rigid edge of the trunk or the branch like I'm doing at the moment. It might help to sit down. Purpose of the video, I'm not obviously, so you can see the whole composition and you can see me doing the work, but I would usually do real vivid areas. I mean, anything I do when I'm doing my interiors, if I'm trying to create really straight lines or anything in a landscape like this, I'm going to sit down so I can balance a lot better on my knee and get that really straight line you need. So notice I'm going all over, picking out those areas that are most important. And just add in a bit of black, a bit of blue into those areas where the darker branches come through. That's going to be over here. So this, again, like anything else, it's going to be a process. One will be on it for a while. But it just gives you an idea of how you build up. There's branching over here as well. A thicker branch there coming in. Notice I dragged that because it was a thicker area, and then maybe on the left here, I've already had a go at doing some of these, but I'm going to heighten them a little bit more coming from that right hand side. Okay, now what we're going to do, we're going to have a go at using this grey I used earlier and thin out your bristles so you can apply a really thin line, and already you can see it's working nicely. Because it's grey, it looks like it's in the distance. And again, don't worry about those main vivid vertical trunks, because you're going to paint over those lastly. Well, I am overlapping. So yeah. So what I'm going to do a lot more things like this where I'm talking about my own work, but obviously you're seeing it through halfway through the painting, which is fair enough. I might do some where I'm talking about my work from the start. You can see the process. For example, I'll be talking about the paper and the combination of colours I use for the ground of this, and then the composition and getting those first colours on, and then I might talk about this one again later on, those last stages, getting those last details. But I'm also going to do some basic tutorials looking at complementary colours, tertiary colours, and how they relate in basic compositions like a still life or a landscape, a very simple landscape, possibly not like this, but maybe just a simple sea scene or just a simple field with a barn or something. And you can see how complementary colours work with each other. For example, a complementary background to the foreground, and we can overlay colours like that. So anybody can just pick up a brush and have a go and see how they relate. Or we can do monochromatic scheme where maybe a bit like more like this, where you don't have any real harsh complementary colours coming through, because everything is kind of within one side of the colour palette with the colour wheel, I feel, on this one. But so with a monochrome, we're going to use maybe just one colour or one theme through a whole painting, just using variants of tints of that colour. So that'll be maybe a good starting point for any beginner. But yeah, I'm also subconsciously, without saying, I'm actually using some of the greens I used earlier as branches, and that also helps. So I'm just building up those areas, and also don't lose the personality of the tree. So you want to create some areas which are more dense of those branches. For example, this kind of area, there's lots of branches coming over the left there, compared to other areas where there's no branches. But also remember that if you make a mistake, it's actually a good thing, because you can go in and scrape it away, or use a pencil and create some marks next to it. And so you can use pencils if you want to use mixed media. I sometimes do use a pastel when it's dry, of course, and do some other branches with a pastel and things like that to add more of a graphic, interesting kind of element to the painting, so it's not 100% just oil or acrylic, whatever you're using. Yeah, so keep watching my videos and you'll see a bit more of this in the later stages of the painting. Thank you.